There's a certain psychology you'll only find in people who grew up in the 1970s. And if you were born after the 2000s, it's almost impossible to fully explain. This was a generation raised on silence, freedom, risk, and responsibility. A kind of childhood that, by today's standards, would probably get parents reported. And yet, those years forged a mindset that still shows up today in how they think, how they argue, how they trust, how they love, and how they survive. They grew up with almost no supervision, no phones, no GPS, no constant check ins. If you disappeared for 5 hours, nobody panicked. You had a bicycle, a few friends, and one rule: be home before dark. And even that rule was negotiable. Psychologically, this built something incredibly rare today: a deep internal confidence, an instinctive belief that says, I'll figure it out, even when they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. But to truly understand the 1970s generation, you have to look at who raised them. Most of their parents lived through World War II or were born in its aftermath. These were people who knew real fear, real hunger, real sacrifice. They didn't talk much about emotions. They didn't complain. They didn't collapse under pressure. They survived, and without meaning to, they passed that survival mindset down. That's why people from the 70s matured early. Responsibility wasn't taught in workshops. It was absorbed at home. You helped. You fixed things. You figured things out. If something broke, you repaired it. If something went wrong, you adapted. There was no expectation that someone would come save you. You were the help. And here's what most people forget: that world forced them to develop a backbone. They watched their parents work long hours without applause. They saw neighbors help each other without posting about it. They witnessed adults carry real weight quietly. That kind of environment shapes you. It teaches you that life is serious but manageable, that problems are normal, and that responsibility isn't a burden. It's part of being alive. That's why people raised in the 70s often feel older than their age. Not physically, mentally. Their maturity didn't come from books or podcasts. It came from watching real life unfiltered, undistracted, unedited. They became the bridge between two worlds. One foot in a slow, raw, human world, and one foot in a fast, digital, noisy one. They remember life before the internet, before screens, before constant noise. And now they're watching a generation drown in it. That's why talking to someone from that era feels different. They're grounded, present, unimpressed. They're not competing. They're not performing. Their confidence comes from struggle, from responsibility, from being tested long before they even knew what that word meant. Now look at the generation born after the 2000s. They grew up with phones in their hands before they could even speak properly. Notifications, messages, videos, timelines. Their brains have been running at full speed since childhood, and you can see the effects everywhere. They burn out faster. They feel overwhelmed easier. Their attention disappears in seconds because their mind absorbs more information in one day than someone in the 70s absorbed in an entire week. Social media gives them connection, but it also gives them pressure. They compare without realizing it. They feel behind even when they're doing fine. Their brain never truly rests because the phone never stops asking for attention. Even when they're relaxing, they're scrolling, and that isn't rest. This generation is intelligent, creative, open-minded, but also mentally exhausted, overstimulated, and emotionally drained in ways older generations never had to face. They're trying to survive a world that moves too fast for the human brain, one notification at a time. So here's my question to you. Which generation do you think had it harder and why? And tell me this: were you born before 1980 or after it?